Ready for IELTS. Final test. Listening. Section 4. You will hear part of a lecture about different theories about migration to the New World. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Today, I'd like to give you a brief overview of the different theories and models of migration to the New World, or the Americas. I should point out that there is not complete agreement as to how people settled in the Americas, and so there won't be any answers, just a selection of popular theories. First of all, there are two general theories. One is that the first people arrived in the so-called New World no longer than 16,000 years ago. This idea is known as short chronology. The other is called long chronology, which states that the first people arrived much longer ago than that, perhaps as much as 40,000 years ago. There is also some argument as to how the first people reached the Americas. The longest-standing theory, widely accepted since the 1930s, is the land bridge theory. This suggests that people migrated from Siberia into Alaska and across the Bering Strait, which then contained a land bridge linking the two continents. According to this theory, the people migrating were nomadic hunters. Spearheads of a particular shape have been found throughout North and Central America, supporting the land bridge theory and dating the migration at between 17,000 and 10,000 years ago, a short chronology. By contrast, the long chronology school of thought argues that, although people definitely crossed the Bering Strait at that time, they were not the first people to arrive. Some evidence exists of earlier inhabitation, especially in the south of the current United States and Central and South America. The question is where they came from. A number of theories have been put forward. The Pacific coastal model suggests that people arrived by boat from Northeast Asia, following the coastline. However, some anthropologists suggest that the first people crossed from Australia or Polynesia. There are some apparent similarities between the Australian Aborigines and some of the tribes of southern Patagonia. However, genetic evidence does not support this theory. Genetic evidence is actually starting to make some headway in understanding migration patterns. Recently, the DNA was extracted from a 10,300-year-old tooth found in a cave in southern Alaska. Researchers discovered descendants with the same DNA all along the Pacific coast, from California to Tierra del Fuego. This strongly indicates that some of the first inhabitants may have dispersed down the coast, though it is thought that this was no more than about 10,000 years ago. Several of the descendants found by this study were descendants of Chumash Indians living in California. Similarities have been found between their DNA and that of people living in Japan and Northeast Asia, perhaps supporting the Pacific coastal model. The history of the Chumash and other neighboring Californian tribes is interesting and may provide further evidence of their ancestry. Along with the Tongva, a tribe found to the south, they regularly went out into the ocean, fishing. This is unusual amongst New World peoples and may indicate that this is how their ancestors originally arrived. The boats used by the Chumash are called tomols, and there may be a linguistic link with a similar word used by the Polynesians. Tongva boats are called tiats. The Tongva are also known as Gabrielanos, after the tradition of naming tribes after nearby Spanish missions. The original name of the Tongva means people of the earth. Plenty of Chumash and Tongva place names are still used in California, such as Malibu in Los Angeles County. Settlements prove that the Chumash were in the area at least 10,000 years ago, and archaeologists have uncovered a prehistoric Tongva site estimated to be 8,000 years old. This, of course, still fits very comfortably within the short chronology theory I mentioned earlier.
That is the end of the listening test. In the IELTS test, you would now have 10 minutes to transfer your answers to the answer sheet.